The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan voter education organization encouraging informed, active participation in government. It is the League's position that voting is a fundamental citizen right that must be guaranteed. While the League does not support candidates or parties, we do take positions on issues we have studied. Our programs will not necessarily represent these positions, but provide forums to increase understanding of public policy issues. The Washtenaw County League does not have an official position on today's topic, but provides this forum for voter information. And I'm just delighted to be able to welcome Jamal and say, I'm the proud owner of Time in Between Thoughts, his studio album from 2018, one of his 4 studio albums dating back to 2007. And I'm hugely impressed that when I open up Amazon and search for his group, the Athletic Mic League, Mic for microphone, MIC, you find Jamal Bufford featured on collaborative albums, including Masters of the Universe, which dates back to 2000, or Crush Your System from 2009, an album that has 30 songs lasting an hour and 49 minutes. It must have been a lot of work. And more recently, the Playground Legends Volume 1 from 2020. You know, he's been featured on 6 collaborative albums and deserves the description seasoned mic veteran who was delivered to his diehard fan base for more than 2 decades. After the members of the Athletic Mic League came together as teenagers here in Ann Arbor more than 25 years ago, they spent more than a decade, 1, perfecting their lyrical skills and writing, including a stint in New Jersey to study the East Coast sound, 2, working out their amazing athletically trained stage performances, and 3, opening for hip hop's elite acts. Following the underground success of AML, Jamal stepped forward as a solo artist, including joining forces with the Black Opera, rap's first performing arts group. The Black Opera has toured the world and released 5 studio albums also. In his spare time, Jamal finished his degree at the University of Michigan. His bio tells us Bufford's background as a hip-hop artist led to his passion of working with young people. He is now project specialist for Washtenaw, My Brother's Keeper. We have much to learn from Jamal about the lives of young men of color living in Washtenaw County, and so I say welcome. And I say an amazing transition to working with young people. Tell us about the Neutral Zone to WMBK, and more recently your CLR Academy in its 2nd summer.
Wow, thank you, Harvey, for making me sound much cooler than I really am. Appreciate that. Good morning, everybody. As Harvey said, my name is Jamal Bufford. I am an Ann Arbor / Ypsilanti native. Grew up in Ann Arbor, went to Ann Arbor Public Schools, but been living in Ypsi for most of my adult life now, the last maybe 15 plus years. Graduated from the University of Michigan with a degree in general studies. And I started out in the engineering program, but I was trying to be a musician at the same time, and that proved to be quite the task and a little too difficult for me. You have to be 100% dedicated to engineering at the University of Michigan. So I wasn't, so I had to make some adjustments, and I told my mom I would get a degree. She said, as long as you get a degree, you can do whatever you want to do. So I got done and I focused on rap, and rap became it's been my passion since I was 12 years old, but it became, my life, kind of dedicating all my energy, all my time, all my little extra money to music. So as Harvey said, that kind of led me to the youth work that I do. So I was living in Los Angeles for a little while, came back to Michigan, and, as an independent artist of any kind, whether it's music or visual artist, whatever it may be, there's definitely like peaks and valleys of when the income is great and when it's not so great. So during one of my valleys, I came back to Michigan and had to figure some things out. So a friend of mine named Mike Hyder, who was also a rapper, he was running the MC program, working with young rappers at the Neutral Zone. And he was about to do what I had just done. I just spent some time in Los Angeles, fully dedicated to music, and he's a couple years younger than me, and he was like, I'm about to move to Seattle to pursue my music career. Do you want to take over this program working with young rappers at the Neutral Zone? And I was like, sure. I could use the extra money. So I started doing that, at working with young rappers, helping them develop their skills, work on their stage presence, work on their recording techniques. And so that was 2011, I believe, and still doing my music. But I started to develop this passion and working with young people, and one, just sharing my love for hip hop culture and hip hop music, sharing my love for that with young people, have seen them become passionate about something, and dedicating themselves to something. And so, yeah, that kind of started to slowly overtake my love for wanting to create music. I still, don't get me wrong, I still love creating music. It's still my favorite thing in the world to do. Um, but now seeing young people enjoy the art form is just about as fulfilling for me now. So went from working only in the MC program, working with rappers, and then eventually became music coordinator at the Neutral Zone. So I started to work with all the different music programs, which includes DJing, beat making, concert promotion, live sound engineering, studio engineering. So I wasn't running all of those programs, but I was hiring the adult staff to work with the teenagers, and helping facilitate all those programs. So did that for a couple years. And then in 2016, I just felt like I needed something different. And so I started working as a paraprofessional, working with special needs young people in the emotionally impaired, self-contained classroom in Ann Arbor Public Schools. And so I started working in that world using music kind of as a therapeutic outlet for some of the young people in the class. And so we actually set a studio up in the classroom and had the young people, if they were on top of their schoolwork and on top of their behavior, they essentially like got to earn studio time, and get in the studio and, talk about what's going on in their life, anything that might be stressful for them, kind of using the music as an outlet. And it's fun, using it as a fun outlet and also as an educational outlet. So we actually used rap for the young people to learn some of their lessons, social studies in particular. We wrote raps to help them learn, the three branches of government. And so we use rap in a number of different ways in the classroom. And so did that from 2016 to 2019. And then a friend of mine, well, in 2018, a friend of mine invited me out to a Washtenaw My Brother's Keeper event. And I think they knew I had been doing youth work. This is a friend of mine, Shamar Heron, who I play basketball with. He's the executive director of Michigan Works Southeast. And so he was on the Washtenaw My Brother's Keeper steering committee. And he invited me out to the summit that was at Eastern Michigan University, kind of a culminating event, ending the year 2018 for Washtenaw My Brother's Keeper. So I had heard of the national My Brother's Keeper initiative that Barack Obama started back in 2015, but I didn't actually know there was a Washtenaw County chapter, and I had been here most of my life, but I didn't know it existed. And so I went to this event. I saw the work they were doing. I loved it. I had been working with young people for years, but it was something special to me about working specifically with young Black men in my community. And so, yeah, they have these breakfasts. We have these breakfasts every second Saturday of the month called 50 Strong Breakfast. And we alternate locations. One month will be at Peace Neighborhood in Ann Arbor. And then the next month will be at the old Willow Run High School, 235 Spencer Lane. And we alternate between those locations. So we have one coming up August 13th. This one will be at the old Willow Run. And our breakfasts are open to anyone. It's definitely the Black and brown male voice is centered and prioritized, but anybody is welcome to come to our breakfast. And so, yeah, so I started going to these breakfasts. But I felt I got the impression from the steering committee members that they just wanted to bring in some new energy, some new fresh ideas. And so they asked me to be on the steering committee. And fast forward, there was a woman in the role, the leadership role, Washtenaw, my brother's keeper. She left and the position opened up. And I went out for it and I got it. So it'll be 3 years for me in this role in September. And so, like I said, one of the main, well, really at the time, the main programmatic, the main program that WMBK was running was just the breakfast. And I felt like they wanted to get some new things going. So soon as I got the job, I saw the opportunity to create some programs. And so one of those programs is Formula 734, which is a music program. And we use music kind of as a tool. It's music is it breaks down barriers. It brings people together. It's a conversation piece. It's a community building piece. Again, like I said, it's a teaching piece. You can learn from music, brings you joy. So we use music to bring young men of color together. And we have conversations about what's going on in their life, what's going on in the world, really creating a safe space for Black and brown young men to openly express themselves about their emotions, what's going on inside of them, what they're dealing with in their family. And, music is that conduit that, we all share a passion, whether the young man enjoys actually writing and recording raps or just listening to raps, it still is that bridge that we kind of use to community build. And so
a quick question, if I may.
Yep.
You created a safe space, but getting them to actually start to share, how difficult was that?
Well, that's a great question. So we've done it twice now. The first round, we have a film, which you all might be familiar with, called also Formula 734. And I knew all the participants in the first cohort. So they were either musicians from the local music scene that I know coming up on the music scene, or they were young people that I actually mentored, whether it be from my past working in the EI classroom or my time at the Neutral Zone. So because I had already built relationships with most of the people there, it was a little difficult because we were talking about some sensitive things, our relationships with our fathers, or the lack of relationships with our fathers in some people's cases, trauma that some of the young people have been through. So it was difficult in that sense, but because I had built a relationship with pretty much everyone there, it wasn't as difficult. Now this time we just did it again. We just had our second cohort from October to February. And we're completing the album for that one, which should be out here soon, hopefully by the end of August. And the documentary film pieces for that one hopefully will be ready to present by the end of this year, hopefully by November, December. But this round was a little more difficult because I didn't know everyone. I didn't have a personal relationship. And this one was also different because we partnered with the prosecutor's office, with Ellie Savitt and Victoria Burton Harris, in an effort to use Formula 734 as a diversion and deflection program to keep young Black and brown men out of the detention center. So if a young person, makes contact with the police, some nonviolent crime, like, I don't know, vandalism or truancy or trespassing or something, instead of them going through the court process and potentially having something like this on their record, jeopardizing their chances of getting employment, they can come to my program. They can come to Formula 734, go through the process, hopefully pick up some skills. They get paid. Hopefully they find some mentors in the process, find some new friends, a new peer group. So because of that, some of the people, again, though they really do love rap, it wasn't like a passion of theirs. So we had to actually work a little bit more on the skill building of rap for some of the young people, which was rewarding in itself to see the growth of the skill set. But also, as you were referring to, Harvey, I didn't know these young people, so there was no relationship there. So it did take a little bit more to get them to open up. And in some cases, they didn't really open up all that much throughout the process, about personal issues. But I did see growth in, community building and letting people into their circle a little bit, their circle of trust. I saw young people supporting other young people. Those that did open up, there was no judgment, there was support. And then, so in our circle, so we use a restorative practice kind of model for our conversation. So we hold a circle and, we tell the norms of the circle every single time we meet and our expectations in the circle. So we kind of set those ground rules and expectations. And so sometimes in the circle, there's certain young people who didn't really speak up. But when we did our one-on-one check-ins, kind of like our, I don't know if you all remember the show, The Real World, on MTV, but it was like the first reality TV show, really, and it brought people from all over the country together and put them in a house. And so it was kind of like a social experiment that was put on TV, but it's been, I think, 20 seasons of The Real World. But anyway, they would take time for each individual to get one-on-one time with the camera and just kind of talk.
Right.
And so we use that in our program. And so though they may not open up that much in the circle, some of them did open up a little bit more when they got one-on-one with the camera. And
Maggie wants to know, what are the ages of the youth who participate in Formula 734?
So Formula 734 specifically is for high school age and up. So, about 13, 14 and older. And the reason for that is because, we do programs like CLR Sports, which I'll talk about a little bit shortly. That's more geared towards younger kids, K through 8. But because Formula 734, we are occasionally talking about, some sensitive topics. We felt it was better to have older young people, just so we, hopefully we can develop them as leaders and be mature enough to be able to handle sensitive topics, be able to support those that are expressing these sensitive topics. And so that, and also because we want older participants kind of serving as mentors for the high school age young people. So for those reasons, it's high school and up. So yeah, I actually haven't seen really any of the footage. I just know the director was mentioning that some of the young people opened up a little bit more once they got alone in front of the camera. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of that footage.
Are the people working on with the second group the same who produced the documentary for the first group?
Yes, so the film director is the same director, yes, Fred Culpepper.
Right.
Yep, he has a company called Creative Fluidity. So it's the same director. And then I returned some of the same kind of mentors, the adult participants. I returned some of them for the second round because they were familiar with the process, and I felt like they could help those that were new get acclimated and get comfortable. So we had 4 people return, one of which was our youngest participant in the first cohort. He returned now as an 18-year-old, and he was serving as kind of one of the mentors for the younger participants. And then we had 6 this time under the age of 18 that participated this time. So a lot younger group this time. The first time we had 2 under the age of 18, and then we had a couple that were 19 and a couple that were 20. And so we brought back some of the older, like 25 and up guys, and we had a whole new crop of youngsters this time.
Susan has a question. In the one-on-ones with the camera, does the participant get to see Susan, the actual footage afterwards?
Yeah, I mean,
who else gets to see the one-on-one?
Before we put it out to the world, yeah, everybody will get a chance to see it, just to make sure they're comfortable with what we're recording. So yeah, they will get to see it. Yeah.
And she also asks about your waiting list. Are there more wanting to participate in the 734 project than space allows?
Yes, because right now our home base is Grove Studios in Ypsilanti. And yeah, just literal physical space. We can't really have more than 15 or 16 people in. Now, Grove is awesome because there's multiple rooms that we can rent out and utilize simultaneously. So we can actually be recording multiple songs and have multiple sessions going simultaneously. And in one of those rooms is, I forgot the name of the rooms, but it's the biggest room. And so that's kind of where we hold our circles.
Right.
But that still isn't even that big, really. So we can really only get 16 at the most people in there comfortably to be able to hold the circles. So yeah, there is people who are wanting to be a part of it that unfortunately they weren't able to be in previous, but hopefully, future cohorts, they'll be able to join.
And is there any different approach in the product you're looking for in the second cohort compared to the first?
Yes, actually, yeah, that's a great question. So because, like I said, one, there's some people who are a little bit more new to the process of writing and recording. Also, because there are more young people, we wanted to allow them to be a little bit more involved in the how do I say this? More involved in shaping the sound of the album. So the first time, so with hip hop, there's sometimes this like generational chasm kind of feud you know, younger artists versus older artists, what's real hip hop, what's not, staying true to the origins and all that stuff. I don't really subscribe to all that stuff. I would be on the older side of things, age wise, but I just love hip hop in general, no matter the style, the delivery, the sound. So some of the younger artists, so people my age and up, they don't really enjoy a lot of the newer rap, just because it sounds so different than the rap that we grew up listening to. But I love it all, as long as you, you know, have skills. That skill could sound totally different than my skills, but as long as you have skills, as long as it sounds sonically appealing, I enjoy it, no matter how old the artist is. So with that said, we had a lot more young under 18 participants. So the music they listen to is nothing like the music we grew up listening to. It's all rap, but it's totally different. So we wanted to allow them to be more a part of shaping the sound of this project. So you'll be able to hear the difference sonically, from this one to the last one, because the first one, myself and some of the adult music mentors really shaped the sound of the first project. So this one is different in that regard. Yeah.
Maggie's got a question. In this newer format that's tied to the prosecutor's diversion program, have all of the participants had a brush with the criminal justice system?
No. So, and again, it's similar to my reasoning for having older and younger participants. We really wanted an intergenerational approach to it, so that the younger people could learn something from the older, but also we could learn, and it's evident in the sound of this second album, we could learn from them, you know? And so in that vein, we didn't want it to be all justice involved young people. We wanted to show the broad spectrum that is Black people and Black men. A lot of times, you know, we kind of get lumped together and, you know, stereotype. And so with this work, I want to show just the vast spectrum of aspects that Black men represent here in Washtenaw County. So yes, some of them have had, you know, have been justice involved, but some haven't. Some are excelling at school academically. Some may be having a tougher time, but I want those people to work together, learn from each other, community build with each other, in hopes that all of us can learn something from someone who may have a similar background, but not the exact same, so that we can experience new things from people who, you know, Washtenaw County, you know, it's not that big. There's not a lot of Black people here, as I'm sure y'all know. So really finding this space to community build has been, like, don't get me wrong, the music is great. The music is awesome. Like, I love the music that we create. But it's really more so about creating the space for Black and brown men across generations to be able to learn from each other, share ideas, share resources, and hopefully, if someone is experiencing a gap in their growth or development, we have the resources and connections to be able to fill that gap, and help them develop or grow. And so that's the reason why I didn't want it to be all justice involved or all non-justice involved. I wanted to bring those groups together, just so we can learn from each other.
You mentioned that Washtenaw My Brother's Keeper had been here for several years before you connected with it. How is Formula 734 connected to the broader Black community? Is everybody aware of it? Is it in a niche?
It's a great question. I don't know. So obviously, one of the, if not the most utilized tool for getting the word out is social media.
Mhm.
So in a lot of cases, whoever is connected to our social media is the audience for this work. But at the same time, we do have community partners who have been super helpful in helping us get the word out. So then there's their audience. So for example, one of the funders for Formula 734 is the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation. And so they held a virtual, this is during COVID, well, it's still COVID, but during the beginning of COVID, they held a virtual screening of the film.
Mhm.
And so, they have a particular type of audience that may not, one, listen to rap music, may not, two, be familiar with Washtenaw, My Brother's Keeper. So that helped spread to a different audience. All, here in Washtenaw County, well, maybe not all in Washtenaw County, but still here in Washtenaw County, but people who may not be familiar with this work. So that helped us spread to a different audience. So yeah, and also, I mean, like I said, there's some Black people who don't really listen to rap too. They may be, more on the older side of things, more seasoned, I'll say. But yeah, so not everybody, not everyone. And that's beautiful. That's, I love that we can expose this art form to people probably who wouldn't give it a chance otherwise, so yeah, I don't know. It's hard to, I don't look at the Bandcamp statistics and the streaming platform statistics and all that to see what demographic I don't know. I
All
just,
right.
yeah.
So you've been working with the high school group and up in WMBK, and last year you added the younger people in CLR Academy. How did that come about?
Yeah, so CLR started, it actually started during COVID, the beginning of COVID in 2020. Technically, it started in 2020.
Okay.
But it wasn't called CLR at the time. It didn't look like it looked now. It was in its infancy at the time. It was a different iteration of CLR. So really it started, I'm a part of a group called the Sycamore Meadows Tenant Allies. So there's a neighborhood in Ypsilanti, or I guess technically Superior Township, called Sycamore Meadows, which used to be called Danbury Green, which, it has its reputation, I guess, infamous, was it famous versus infamous? It has its reputation for, being one of the more violent neighborhoods in the area. And so it was called the Green for short, Danbury Greens, or the Green. And I had friends and family I never lived there, but I had friends and family that lived there over the years. And it kind of built a reputation. And so some of that warranted, some of that not warranted. And so because of the work that I do, I was asked to join the Sycamore Meadows. It's now called Sycamore Meadows. I was asked to join their tenant ally group in efforts to have the needs of the residents addressed. So whether it be police presence, too much police presence or not enough police presence, or the living conditions, the housing conditions. So having these needs expressed to local government elected officials and making sure that they are heard and hopefully get the changes that they want addressed, hopefully getting those made. And so I was asked to join this team, and then a community member named Kelly Goolsby, who's a trusted parent advisor for the WISD, the Washtenaw Intermediate School District, who I work for as well. So my job with My Brother's Keeper is housed under the WISD. So Kelly Goolsby, in the heart of COVID, there was a lot of shootings in the neighborhood. And so kids were at home because they weren't at school. They were in the house all day. And parents wanted to let their kids outside, but some of them didn't feel comfortable letting them outside because of all the shootings. And so Kelly started doing these walks on Wednesday just to get people out of the house and walking around the neighborhood and getting active. She called it Walking Wednesdays. And so she asked me, hey, we're doing this Walking Wednesday. She was also doing Mindfulness Mondays, so doing yoga with some of the adults in the neighborhood. And she was like, we're doing this, but it's mostly adults that are coming out. Do you think you could do something to get the kids out? And I was like, all right. I'm an athlete, hence the name Athletic Mike League. I played basketball growing up. There's no basketball court in the neighborhood, but there's a lot of field. So I was like, cool, we'll figure something out. And so I talked to my friend, Justin Harper, who's also a part of Washtenaw My Brother's Keeper. He's on my steering committee. He works for Ann Arbor Public Schools. He also works with Ann Arbor Rec and Ed. He's a referee. He coaches and trains. So I asked Justin, hey, can you get some soccer balls and basketball, whatever, and let's do something. He was like, all right, cool. So he had access to the sports stuff, came out, rolled the balls out, and we just started doing sports stuff. Didn't have a name. So every Wednesday when the parents would be walking around the neighborhood, me and Justin would be out with the kids. And so this is towards the end of the summer of 2020. It started to cool off. And so I knew I wanted to bring it back, with more support and kind of more thought out, more planned. I knew I wanted to beef it up and come back the next summer. So last summer, 2021. So Justin, myself, and then we reached out to our third partner, Bilal Saeed, who is chair of AFC Ann Arbor, which is a local semi-pro soccer team, men and women's soccer team. Bilal is been in the sports world, sports and marketing for years, super connected. So Bilal is also on the WNBK steering committee. And so we reached out to Bilal, said, hey, we want to do the sports program. And so Bilal, we were trying to think of a name for it. Now I'm gonna draw a blank on this. I already drew a blank, but I knew Bilal was reading a book and the author's name, like his first three initials were CLR. I don't know what his or her last name was. Maybe you can Google it and something might pop up, but I don't know. I actually missed this part of the story. So Justin was like, oh, cool. Maybe we could take those three letters and make something out of it. So Justin came up with, Community Leadership Revolution. And so that's where CLR, the name CLR comes from. So they actually came up with the name. I wasn't even in the meeting when they came up with the name, but I loved it. I was like, cool, all right. So we knew we wanted to bring it back. We wanted to make it as easily accessible as possible. So we didn't want any barriers. We wanted to bring the sports programming right to the neighborhood. We wanted to provide all the sports equipment so they didn't have to pay for anything. We wanted to provide healthy snacks Because in a lot of our neighborhoods, there's transportation barriers, there's food deserts where, it's not easy to get to a grocery store. So we wanted to try to eliminate as many barriers as possible and bring it right to the neighborhood, provide free sports equipment, free snacks, do sports training. But again, similar to the music program, we wanted to use sport as the hook to get the young people out, but also work on CLR James. Thank you, Maggie. We wanted to build leadership skills amongst the young people, build the social emotional learning skills, help them with coping mechanisms, help them with conflict resolution. We do mindfulness, we do yoga with the young people. We provide books, and we try to have reading time at some point during the sports training, just to promote literacy. So I knew I wanted to bring all these things into the sports program, on top of sports sampling and getting access to soccer, football, basketball, whatever sport. And maybe they pick up a sport and they love it for the rest of their lives, or maybe they're just not athletically inclined, which is fine. We want the young people to have access to be exposed to these sports, but really it's about picking up the life skills that are attached to being an athlete, or just being a supportive neighbor. We want the young people to get out in the neighborhood. And if you're throwing a ball, sharing a ball every Saturday with somebody, they fall, you help them up, you clapping them on, you're cheering them on when they accomplish something. That's building a community, that's building a neighborhood. So the chances of you growing up, who's to say they don't move to another neighborhood or whatever, but if you grow up in this neighborhood 3, 4, 5 years with this person that you were participating in this program with, that decreases the chance, in my mind, and in my utopian world, that decreases the chances of there being conflict with this person that you're sharing space with. So that's the underlying objective of the work that we do, is creating relationships, building community.
So a decade, 2011, you joined Neutral Zone. You've spent a decade working with the youth of our community. And so the big question, I think, for this morning is, what are 3 things our community should be doing better in supporting our young people? And for this particular group, what should the league be pushing our community to do?
Ooh, wow. Another great question, Harvey. Supporting the arts, for sure. Whether it's advocating for it to be more financially supported in our schools, or more programs like Formula 734 outside of school, but advocating for the financial support of the arts for young people. And for a couple reasons. One, art, again, I think music as an art, but any type of art form, is a healthy outlet for young people to express themselves. If they are dealing with something and don't know how to verbalize it, put it in words, art can be that for them. Also, again, it's fun. Also, it's collaborative in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases. It brings people together. And it can be a way to make money. It can help the financial situation. I mean, in a community in general, it can help the economics. Art can help the economics of a community in general. So helping to get money, putting money into the arts for young people. That's one thing. Shoot, I don't know. Vote for elected officials that are culturally competent. Hopefully, know that Black and brown people in this community and in the country, in the world, have been disenfranchised and left out and marginalized. So hopefully voting for elected officials who understand that and work to change that, that would be helpful. I'm
sorry, let me follow up on that. Is there any group in our community that does political endorsements based on cultural awareness of our candidates? Just curious.
I don't even know.
Okay,
I try my best to stay out of politics, even though I can't with the work that I do. And my steering committee, they tease me all the time. So Washtenaw, my brother's keeper, we're nonpartisan. We don't endorse candidates, but we need to know what's going on in our local government, and I try to avoid it. They make fun of me. They're like, "You need to know this stuff." I'm like, "I know." So to answer your question, I don't know, Harvey, but I would just say, do your research to anybody. Try to do your due diligence on candidates. We just had an election here yesterday. So hopefully the people that were elected, are people who can work for equity in our county. Economic equity, housing equity, educational equity, criminal justice equity, healthcare equity. Hopefully our candidates can bring some equity in those areas. And third, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you could support Washtenaw, my brother's keeper. That's one thing you can do. You can donate to us. Help us keep running these programs year after year. Hopefully we can build some real sustainability.
Are you still getting support from the community foundation?
Yes, actually, yeah. I just did a grant proposal. I wrote a grant application for their latest grant, and we received grant funding again from Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation to help with the third round of Formula 734, hopefully starting this fall, hopefully around September, end of September, October.
Next month. Wow.
Yeah, that's when I said September, I was like, oh, that's next month. That's why I had to change it to September, October. I don't know if you noticed that.
I heard. I have a question from Amelia Jane. Are there any plans for a sister organization, Washtenaw, My Sister's Keeper?
Another great question. So there have been discussions around that. We also have a middle school boys group program called Young Men of Purpose, which we partnered with Mentor to Youth, an organization here in the county. And every time we run our program, we run a circle. There's young women outside of the room, like, when we want to do what y'all doing, when can we get a young women of purpose? So that question has always been there. So to answer your question, nothing solid is underway, but the discussion has been raised several times. I would love for it to happen. I would love to meet with some of the local women of color who, you know, whether it be community members or elected officials or teachers, whoever it may be. I would love to have a conversation with them to get their ideas on how something like that could happen. So there are some communities across the country, some My Brother's Keeper communities across the country who do work with young women. Lansing in particular, I know their My Brother's Keeper has programming specifically for young women of color. And you know, even like when we start, so CLR is obviously the sports programming is open to young men and young women, but we also hire high school age kind of peer coaches, and those are young men and young women. So again, some of them are court involved, but it's again not mandatory. But so young women are a part of CLR. So, but nothing specifically for young women right now, but I would love to see that happen.
I guess we're heading toward a final question. What happened to the people from Cohort 1? One of them has come back as a mentor to Cohort 2, you said. Are you following the rest of the group? Does it like have a cohesive connectivity ongoing?
So yeah, four of them came back for this one. One of them is a chef, actually moved to Oklahoma City. I think he actually might be back now. Him and his partner just had a child. I think, yeah, they did move back. So they're back. One of them, they're all still active in music, pursuing their own thing. We have like a Instagram chat group. So we check in occasionally on Instagram. Similar to this group, this new cohort, we have an Instagram. That's like the communication tool of choice for a lot of the younger folk. So we use Instagram to check in occasionally with each other. Another moved to California, but I think they're back. Yep, they just got back. So right after Formula 734, the first round, a couple of them moved out of state. I think they're back now. All again, still working on music. One of the four that returned actually now just got a job at the WISD. So one of them is now my coworker, coincidentally. He's an office professional at the WISD. Excuse me. But yeah, everybody's doing well. Everybody's doing well. Our young people that were brought to us through the prosecutor's office, none of them have gotten any legal trouble again since Formula 734 this round ended. So that's awesome. I hope to bring a couple of them, if not all of them back, at least hopefully one or two of them back for the third round, for the next round, and kind of keep that peer mentoring going. So those that have experienced the program come back again and help the process for those that are new to it. So, but everybody's doing well. Everybody's doing well.
I'm glad that Instagram connectivity continues. Question again from Amelia Jane. Do you foresee the possibility that WMBK or another approach could continue to mentor your young people if they go on to community college or the university? So you're at the high school level. Do you see the possibility of going a little bit older? And in terms of literacy element of that, are you connected at all with Washtenaw Literacy Organization that works out of the Ypsi Library on Whitaker?
So first question, absolutely, that's the goal. That's the broader vision of WMBK. Is it's really, cradle to career. So we want to be able to help and support young men of color, young Black and brown men, well into their 20s, and really have them serve then as the mentors for the high schoolers for the middle school. That's the vision I have right now. Capacity wise, it's difficult. I'm the only person employed to do Washtenaw My Brother's Keeper work, so I wear a lot of hats. I run the social media, I do the finances and budget work. I'm the grant writer. I design the programs. I run the program. So it's a lot. But that is the vision. I see it. I know it's possible. I want that to happen. Yes, so we can continue the relationship, really establishing relationships now with college students, and then having them play a role in supporting. But then also, hopefully this thing runs for decades, and then we see these elementary, middle school kids that we work with become college students, or just trained in a trade, knowing that college isn't for everyone. But yeah, we want to see that development and that growth, and then continue that peer mentoring. Yes. And to the second question, no, right now we don't have like a working relationship with Washtenaw Literacy, but I would love for that connection.
If I remember correctly, when you were invited to talk to us, you said, "What would I talk about for an hour?"
I did. But no, you asked very great guiding questions, Harvey. So without your questions, this would have been like 20 minutes, but your questions kept it going. But you're right. I did say that.
Let me just, as I thank Jamal, say, if you haven't listened to any of his music, let me just give you one lyric from my favorite song, which is Sob Story Song out of this particular album. And there are a series of great lyrics, but some people got a funny way of showing love. Sometimes I think my people don't show enough. Then I remember we only show what's been shown to us: slavery, Jim Crow, the war on drugs. Amazing lyrics, and that's just one of a stream of amazing lyrics. Jamal, thank you very much. Maggie has her thanks in the chat. Thank you for making the time to talk with us and the amazing work you're doing. It's been a great hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harvey. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate this opportunity to share. Film festival. We have Formula 734. Our documentary just got added to another film festival, the Detroit Black Film Festival, in September. The Hip Hop Film Festival in New York, starting August 11th. So if you guys check out our social media at all and you see any posts and there's an opportunity to vote for our film. Even if you haven't seen it, just vote for it. And it'll be out soon. It'll be out soon. Hopefully we'll have this first film out before the second film, but it'll be out hopefully by the end of the year as well. So.
And we really appreciate you sharing a link for people to watch Formula 734 before today. So that was great. Thank you very much.